Cool. So we'll go ahead and get started. So yeah, I've been working at summer camps for a long time, but I must admit I'm not very familiar with working at a special needs camp. So I feel privileged to be joined by Kaylee. She's one of our program coordinators here at InterExchange, who has
Hello,
worked at a special needs camp and has a lot of experience on the topic. So hey, Kaylee, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm so excited. We have so many participants joining us. This is going to be an awesome opportunity for everyone to learn a little bit more about what they can expect from their summer. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. So yeah, like I said, we'll take some questions towards the end, but I thought I'd get started by kind of picking Kaylee's brain and asking her some questions myself. So yeah, Kaylee, can you tell me a little bit about the camp you worked at and what your experience was like?
Absolutely. So I worked 4 years over the course of 6 years, thanks to the pandemic, at Lions Camp Badger, which is in New York State. I know a couple of you are going there this summer. I'm super excited for you. And my experience was nothing short of life changing. To see people have the opportunity to be someplace where their number one task is just to have fun, that's the best thing you could ever ask for from a summer camp. Looking at the day-to-day work, it was very similar to other summer camps in the sense that you have a group of campers that you are responsible for, and you have to make sure they get to their activities on time. You want to make sure that they are properly engaging in the activities. Nobody's feeling left out. And then sometimes it was the other side, and I was responsible for hosting the activities. So that meant making sure that there was some way that every activity was accessible to every participant. And I can tell you the one thing that's for sure is that no 2 days ever look the same. It's a very fast-paced, constantly moving job, but it's my favorite place in the world.
Yeah, so I'm curious. Tell me a little bit more about these activities. So like what type of activities are participants engaged in?
Yeah.
What's your responsibility at those activities?
So in my experience, which I think is pretty common for most camps, you have a group of activities that you do every single day. And then you have special activities that are either on rotation or maybe a surprise every day. As far as your everyday activities, that's things like arts and crafts, fishing and boating, and usually some sort of physical athletic activity, which can be really interesting when you're working with people who have physical disabilities. So one of my favorite things we've done is wheelchair baseball, which means every participant, regardless of their physical abilities, plays in a wheelchair. It clears the playing field. You cannot use your legs. It is so much fun. And then when we talk about special activities, maybe in the afternoon, you'll have a magician come in and you get to see a magic show, or we'll do a cooking class together. Those are the things that really shake up summer camp. They make it different every day.
That's great. What do you think your favorite part about working at a special needs camp was?
Oh, the whole thing. I can only pick one. My favorite thing looking back over the years was seeing how much these people look forward to camp. Like we usually have very strict rules about making contact with participants, or excuse me, with campers over social media. But in my experience, I've seen they want to talk to anybody about camp. So they'll send messages and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, 14 days to camp, 12 hours to camp, 6 hours to camp." The excitement that they have for camp makes it an amazing experience for everyone. It's something they look forward to. It's where all their friends are. So when they're excited, it makes it so easy for me to be excited.
That's great. So yeah, we use this term special needs a lot. We call them special needs camps, special needs campers. It's obviously a broad term, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it covers a spectrum of disabilities. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that spectrum is like and what type
Yeah.
of campers I'll be working with this summer?
For sure. So I'm glad you brought that up because special needs is a very niche phrase that I'm not sure if people who speak English as a second language, if they're familiar with that. So when we say special needs, it really just means that somebody or some group of people either has they have reason to need more than maybe the average person needs. So if somebody needs a wheelchair, you might call them special needs. But when we talk about the spectrum, it can be anything from physical disability, mental disability, emotional disability, and there's a spectrum within each one of them. So when I look back at campers I've worked with throughout the years, it can be anything from a 17-year-old boy with autism to a 25-year-old man with maybe some physical disabilities and mental disabilities. And the most important thing is that you get to know your campers as people, period. You don't have to get to know them as people with disabilities or disabled people or special needs campers. As long as you have an open mind to learn about them, just like you would any other person, you will learn everything you need to know about how to make sure they have the best summer.
Thanks for sharing. Now, how many, I know every camp's different, but how many campers were at Lions Camp Badger?
That's a great question. So I actually had a particularly unique experience that in my 4 years I worked there, we did it differently every year. We kind of tried something new, which is great because I imagine that's kind of how every camp is. They're all a little different. So I've had the experience of, we did two-week sessions, meaning we had about 25 campers at a time. They were each there for 2 weeks, and we did that twice. In other years, we've had, I think maybe 6-day sessions where that's about 20 campers, and they're only there for 6 days. To my knowledge, most camps that specialize in serving people with disabilities, they're more likely to be several shorter sessions compared to a traditional summer camp where you might have the same kids there for 6-7 weeks.
Cool. So yeah, I'm sure you developed some very strong bonds in your time working at Lions Camp Badger.
Camp friends are the best friends.
Yeah. So yeah, when you're leading activities, like how big is the group of campers, and like how many co-counselors will you have? Like, yeah, is it a big group? Is it a small group?
We definitely, when we talk about like a cabin group, it's always at least 2 counselors and at the very most 6 or 7 campers. The small groups allow you to form those closer bonds than if you were in a massive group. And then when we go to activities, you're usually paired with another group. The reason we do that is so that we have a spectrum of abilities. So everybody has the ability to play soccer with maybe someone who can kick a ball isn't the same person who can catch a ball. So if you put as many different types of abilities together in these small, medium-sized groups, that's when we see the most diversity and everyone seems to have the best time.
Great. So yeah, as I know, working at any summer camp is challenging. The days can be long. You know, when you're putting the needs of others and before the needs of your own, it can lead to a long day, but it's obviously very rewarding. What was the most challenging part of your camp experience?
Ooh. I think for me, which is something that I'm sure a lot of participants will be able to maybe not relate to yet, but they're anticipating this, is being away from your home for a long time while trying to make other people feel at home is a very weird feeling. So maybe if this is the first time you're leaving your home country, I'm so proud of you. That's so exciting. It's going to be a little hard. I find the best way to work through that is to remember why you're doing this. We're doing this because we love to travel. We want to try new things. We want to meet new people, but also to find the joy in the littlest things. So maybe I miss my mom's cooking at home. So I can go to my camp director and say, hey, my mom has this incredible lasagna recipe. Is there any chance maybe on Friday night after the campers leave, I can cook lasagna for everybody? Which is a very specific thing, but finding ways to bring your favorite parts of home to camp will make your camp experience that much better.
Thanks. Do you have any tips if I'm struggling with maybe an individual camper or struggling with my cabin group? Yeah. Any tips for that?
For sure. And these are all things that when you get to camp, your camp director will go over with you what their protocol is, how they want you to address situations like this. So definitely make sure you get their advice as well. From my personal experience, I am a big fan of what I call tapping out, meaning you have tried options A through Z, nothing is changing and you are at your wit's end. Nothing is going to get better. For me, that's the point where I have to say, I cannot deal with this situation anymore. I am no longer being productive. I'm not helping this situation. I need to step back. And when you do that, you always want to make sure another counselor or somebody else in who works there is ready to take over for you. You never want to abandon a camper in that position. But there is a point where we as people, we just are not helping the situation anymore. And I will say that they kind of have to swallow your pride and say, I am not the person to fix this. And 9 times out of 10, when the second person walks in, they'll fix it on the first try. And it is frustrating to watch, but it's just different people convey messages different ways. So if you have to step out, just say, I can't do this right now. I need somebody else to step in and let the situation go as it would. Obviously, there's times where that doesn't work and things escalate. That's definitely a time where you want to get either your program director or your camp director involved.
Great, that's a good tip, and it's honestly something that probably applies to all of us in our day-to-day lives.
Yes, it applies to other parts of life for sure.
Yeah, or working at any camp, but that's great. So yeah, honestly, like I don't really have a whole lot of experience with this population or working at a camp like this, and some of our participants may not either. Is there any tips you might give for like stepping out of your comfort zone and embracing this experience type?
Yeah, I find that the best way to have the best experience, whether it's at camp or even just any new thing in life, is to show a willingness to learn. This might have come up in your interviews with your directors. If you said, I don't know why you put me on review. I have no experience working with people with disabilities. I'm not qualified to do this. I can almost guarantee you that is not a qualification. You don't have to have had experience to do this. You have to show that you are willing to learn. You are open to seeing the world a different way, which is a huge part of what the Camp USA program is about anyway. And just show that, yes, this is different for me. This is uncomfortable. This is new, but I am willing to be a part of this group that's going to try it. I'm going to have an open mind. I'm going to learn new things, and you will be set for success, regardless of any experience you may have had.
Is there like some sort of training in the first week or anything like that?
Oh, for sure. Most of your camps, you're getting there at least 3, if not 7 days before your campers. And during that time, your directors will go over things like safety protocol, how to manage camper behaviors, how to keep them engaged in their activities. Those are all things that your directors will take time to teach you before they throw you in.
That's great. I'm sure it's a great opportunity to meet your other counselors, counselors from all over the world. Did you have international counselors at your camp?
I did. My first year, we did not, but every year since, we have had counselors from all over the world. And having had the experience of working at a special needs camp, to see somebody who might not have the financial support, the physical support, the family support, these people will likely never be able to travel. When our participants or any other participants come from all over the world to work at camp, you are giving them the next best thing they could possibly have to traveling at their summer camp. And that is magical to me.
That's really cool. That's great. I think that's almost maybe all of my questions. Kaylee, is there anything else that you think I should know or you want to discuss or talk about before we take some questions?
We can take some questions first, and if I feel like something is missed, I will tag it in, but I'm open to any questions from the audience. It can be about what we expect camp to look like, how we handle certain situations, whatever you got, I am here to help you.
Yeah, I mean, we called this an Ask Us Anything, and we mean that pretty literally.
Yeah.
So if there's anything you'd like to know, feel free to pop it in the chat, and we'll answer as many questions as we can.
If anybody who's working at Lions Camp Badger has very specific questions, I can answer those. Obviously, everyone else from other camps, I will give you the best, most relatable advice I can think of.
Cool. Julia, do we have any questions?
Oh, let's see. Julia cannot unmute. Let me find her here.
Hey, sorry about that.
No
So at the
worries.
moment, looks like people in chat are still waiting to get some questions out, but I was wondering myself. So it does sound like it could be a kind of difficult experience. And are our counselors going to have a chance to take care of themselves? And like, how could they do that when their primary responsibility is taking care of their campers?
That's a great question. And I think this goes well beyond what it means to work at a special needs camp. Camp is hard. Like it's the most fun. We always say it's the hardest job you'll ever love. Meaning the days, just like they say about parenting, I've heard that the days are long, but the weeks are short. Which means that, yeah, maybe fishing is going terribly today. So the hour of fishing feels like 5 hours of fishing. But before you know it, the session is over and your favorite campers have already left. So when we talk about taking care of ourselves, it's so important because if you are not taking care of yourself, your needs, you're not getting enough sleep, your campers are going to know, they're going to pick up on it, and they're either going to mimic that behavior, meaning they'll feel the same way, or they'll see, oh, Christian's really not paying attention today. Let me see what I can get into while he's not looking. So in my experience, the best way to have your best self ready every day is to really focus on your individual needs. For myself, I am somebody who cannot function on less than 8 hours of sleep. So a lot of times that meant I had to compromise maybe being social at night. So say a lot of you will have nights off and nights on. That's something your camp director will go over with you. But if it's my night off, it took me a while to learn that my night off was not the night to go shopping. It's not my night to go hang out with friends, to go meet in the kitchen. No, my night off meant I had to go to sleep. And that might be different for every person. So it's super important that you take time to figure out what you will need to succeed and find the little places that you can put that in, whether it's, like I said before, making something from home on a dinner night off, getting an extra hour of sleep wherever you can. And going back to what I said before about problem solving and getting out of those moments, there will be moments where you maybe have abandoned your self-care a little bit and you're only realizing it in the moment. That's when you tap out and say, I cannot deal with this situation right now. I'm too tired, I'm too hungry, I'm too whatever, I can't do this. And you just let somebody else step in, let them take care of it, and just follow up afterwards. That's something that I think will really, the first few days are really crucial for you to see, what am I missing? What do I need more of? And don't feel like you have to get there on day one and know exactly what you're doing right away. It'll take time for you to adjust and figure out what you need to have the best experience.
Kayla, you said your camp was in New York, correct?
Yes.
What was the town?
It's called Spencer, New York. You can barely find it on a map.
Yeah. What was it like being in a small town of New York? Like what did you have access to in your time off, or what was that community like?
We have a diner with an ice cream parlor, so that was a good one, and a dollar store and a park. That's about it. And the one thing that I loved, that I mean, I'm more of a small town girl than a city girl, but what I loved there is everyone in the community would see us and be like, oh my God, you work at Camp Badger. That's amazing. I've heard such good things. When you're in this kind of middle of nowhere town, the community knows you. They're excited to see people from all over the world there. It definitely takes some getting used to. It's good if you have a friend who can drive so you can get away on your days off. Which, speaking of, that's another thing that your camp will likely offer. On your days off, they'll say, you should get away from camp today. Like, this is your work. You've been here for 30 days nonstop. Let's go on like a field trip together, which can be really fun. If you're in the Ithaca area, there's incredible hiking.
So we do have some questions. The first one that came into me was, do you have any suggestions on essential things to take with you to camp? We're still trying to figure out a solid packing list.
I get that. I am known for overpacking. So I know my camp actually just sent out our packing list yesterday. So definitely keep an eye on that from your camp because they might have specific things. I know, for example, my camp, we always recommend that everyone brings a raincoat because we get a lot of rain in the month of July, which is very specific to where we are. But your camp will definitely send you a detailed list. But as far as essentials, for me, I like taking my bedding from home. I don't take like an extra set. I like having my bedding. I do not like to do laundry, so I bring as many clothes as I can possibly fit in my suitcase. And for anybody who is in like the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, note that it probably will be cold when you arrive. The nights this time of year are still pretty cold around here. So you definitely want your long pants and your sweatshirts, but prepare because by the time we get to July, it'll be 90, 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I'd also add to that, bring something from home.
Yeah.
You're going to be a bit of a celebrity coming from a different country, and it's always fun to share something. Be that a flag or a jersey from a local sports team, all of that stuff is a big hit at camp.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, another question more directly about working at camp. There's a little concern about, helping campers who may need assistance using the restroom. How would things like that work? How will the training look as well for that?
Yeah, that's a super important question. And that's something that's very specific to this job you've taken on. Again, that's something in the first few days of camp that it will be taught to you. Nobody, regardless of their experience, is expected to show up on day one and know how to safely put somebody on a toilet. That is not at all the expectation with this type of participation program. You'll definitely be taught those things, and I will tell you, it will be uncomfortable. The most important things that I've learned in my experiences with things like that is you always want to remember that this person is a person and they are probably uncomfortable too. You are basically a stranger to them and they are relying on you for their basic human needs. There's a lot of trust involved in that relationship. So as long as one of my favorite things is to talk through every single thing you're doing. So, all right, Mason, we're gonna go to the bathroom right now. Do you wanna wheel your chair? Or do you want me to push you? All right, Mason, we're in the bathroom stall. Christian and I are gonna help you get on the toilet, okay? And when you're talking through it, first of all, it's way less awkward than standing there in silence, but also you're acknowledging that they are a person, that this is uncomfortable for everyone involved, and that you're doing them exactly what they need. You are helping them meet their human needs. But again, these are all things that we'll go over with your director when you arrive to camp. And if you get into a position where you're like, oh my God, this is not working. Like I'm a very small person. So there's been times where even I, who usually likes to be the bravest one on the team, I'm like, I can't do this. Like this person is just very incomparable to my size. So just know that you are always working on a team and that the more you work together, the smoother it'll go, the more there is to laugh about at the end. Like don't take everything too seriously. You'll get through the rougher moments and they will be so much more worth it in the end.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Shout out to our returners who are in the group today.
Yeah,
I'd say that's another big resource too. If you're new to camp and the staff that have been there in previous years are going to be a huge resource for you. They're obviously going to be some of your really good friends, but they've been through this experience. They love it. They come back. They know how to succeed. So yeah, shout out to our returners out there.
there's a reason they're coming back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Will camps let us use phones throughout the day?
Oh, that's one of my favorite questions. So again, speaking from personal experience, during the day is probably going to be no. It is your responsibility to take care of these people. And that means your full undivided attention constantly, especially when you're working with people with disabilities, because even if you're just eating lunch, someone can start choking and now you have a safety hazard. Your camp will tell you when and where you can use your phones. At my camp, you had 1 hour a day of your break time. That was your time to use your phone, call your family, check in, pay bills, whatever you need to do. And then almost every other evening was also a night off. That's the time again where you do not have responsibilities. So that's the time you can be on your phone. And of course, situations happen, emergencies happen. 9 times out of 10, if you tell your director, hey, I'm so sorry, the timeline is working out weird, but I'm expecting a really important call at 10 o'clock today. I know that's not my break, but can I let you know when I get this call and somebody can tap out for me? They're people, they're very understanding. They will almost always make it work. Just remember that your main responsibility is to be there and be focused.
What time of day is your break normally? I'm sure it's not the same time every day, but around what time could you expect?
One of my favorite suggestions that I actually came up with at the ACA conference this year is I always suggest directors to talk to their participants, especially those from around the world, because most of your families live in different time zones. So if you have the opportunity to tell your director, hey, I'm grateful for my break you gave me at 3 p.m., but that's 3 a.m. to my family back home. I'm never going to be able to talk to them at that time. That's a problem. We don't want you feeling like you're disconnected from your family. So see if they can move it around. See if there's somebody whose family lives in the same time zone and you can switch it. Most of the time, your breaks are probably going to be between 10 a.m. and maybe 2 p.m.-ish. But again, as long as you continually communicate with your director, they want you to succeed just as much as we do. They are happy to make it work.
Cool. So this question might vary camp to camp, but do you know maybe what the difference is between counselors and a program leader?
Oh, I love this. So some camps will have, these are just your counselor groups. Counselor meaning you're in the cabin with them every night. You have the same campers with you every day. You bring them to every activity. You make sure your group is participating in the activity. If someone in your group has a problem, whether it's emotional or they get hurt, that is your responsibility. Whereas activity leaders, they probably will run the same activity all day, not necessarily every day, but like, okay, today I am the arts and crafts leader. I am teaching the same craft to everyone in the room. So I'm not responsible for if Christian is having an emotional problem and needs to leave. That's not my responsibility right now. My responsibility is making sure the whole group has all the supplies they need. They have all the instructions. I have enough counselors here to make sure everyone's able to do this activity. And of course, if I see someone's having a hard time, yes, I can step in and give that one-on-one support, but only when I know that the whole group's needs are being met. I personally like a camp that lets you kind of switch between the two. You get the whole experience.
Yeah. Awesome. So it looks like that kind of addressed the next question, which was about if I'm going to be alone in activities or
Never.
with other people. So with our 8 minutes that we have left, I'm going to move on. We have maybe 2 more questions that I can see. So one would just, well, let's do this one first. So something that concerns this person is how they might cope with any camper's problems and getting over that as efficiently as possible and getting through that, since you know we don't have the experience working with this community necessarily.
Right. So again, I know I've said this many times, but I truly mean it when I tell you in the first week, you are going to learn so many things. Whether that's when is it time to remove one camper from the group? That's something you'll learn. It's not always an instinctual thing. When you need to ask help, when you're realizing this situation is way above my skills or what I have the emotional capacity to handle, those are all things you'll learn. And if at any point you feel like, hey, I'm not sure we really talked about what I'm supposed to do when 2 campers get into a fight together. I don't think we talked about that. That's when you have to say something. You need to speak up and say, hey, I'm concerned about this problem. I'm not sure I'm ready to handle this. Okay, so let's talk about some steps. And when I say I mean your director. Let's talk about some steps. What what are you comfortable handling? What aren't you comfortable handling? And that goes back to what I said before. In using this, the first maybe 2 weeks, you will be figuring out, what can I handle? What do I need help with? So just make sure you're listening to yourself and willing to have that open conversation, whether, even if it's not with your director, even if it's with your co-participants. Say, hey, I'm really having a problem. One of my campers is having the same problem over and over again. The more you are willing to talk about what you see on a daily basis, the more likely you're going to come to a solution.
Awesome. All right, so we do have 2 more questions. They might be camp specific, but I think
Sure.
for the sake of, okay, so could you please touch on nights off and evenings, and then also with your responsibilities on camp, if I guess how many nights off versus how many nights do you have
Absolutely.
responsibilities at camp? And
So
if you have
in
time
my
for yourself in the evenings.
Absolutely, yeah. So again, my personal experience, I think we were 1 night on, 2 nights off. And what that means is your time off begins, I want to say it was maybe like when everyone's back from their showers or something like that. And what it means is, this is my night off. I can see that everyone is showered, everyone has brushed their teeth, they're in their beds, everything is fine, it's quiet time. Your partner or your co-counselor is going to take over for the night. So I'm off. Maybe that means I can leave camp. Maybe it means there's a staff lounge I can go hang out in. I can call my family. I can do some work, whatever I need to do. I am not responsible that night. That being said, there are still rules about what that means to be off duty, but that looks different at every camp. So make sure you go over that when you get there. As for being on duty, that means that you are still responsible. You are not going to be on your phone that night. You're definitely not leaving the cabin. You're not drinking. Those are all things that, when you think about what it means to be at a job and to be responsible for your work, that is considered on duty. And we rotate those nights so everyone has that time to recharge, take care of themselves, do what they need to do.
Cool. Well, I think that's about it for questions. I'll look over any that we might have missed.
Awesome.
But yeah. Oh, I think Christian's muted.
Oh, Christian is muted. Okay. Mhm.
Thank you guys for sending in all those questions. Those are really
those
great.
were awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you, Kaylee, for sharing all your expertise. And
My pleasure.
yeah, as I mentioned, if there's anything that you might feel more comfortable with, sending us in an email or in the chat feature within your account, it's kind of what we're here for, and we're happy to help. Everyone at the Interexchange team has a lot of experience working at camp, so we're here to help throughout the summer, and we're here to help leading up to your arrival as well. So if there's anything we didn't cover today, we're more than happy to help. So just stay in touch. Kaylee, is there anything else you want to touch on or discuss before we wrap this up?
No, I feel so good about everything we talked about. Thank you all so much for coming today, showing that willingness to learn we talked about, for being brave, asking questions, acknowledging that maybe I have a lot more to learn than I thought. Those are all awesome characteristics to have. Those are great things to bring to camp. As Christian said, we are available all season. We're here all the time to help get you ready. I think most of you I've emailed at least once personally, but if you need my email, if you want to ask me questions, just let me know. We are always around. Your success is our success. So the more questions you ask, the better it's going to go.
That's great. Yeah, everyone's going to have an awesome summer. We're super excited for you guys. I'm excited to hear about your experience throughout the summer and afterwards. It will be a life-changing summer, and we're really excited for you guys. Cool. Well, I think that'll about do it. Thanks again for joining us, and we will answer any questions and be in touch soon.
Thank you guys so much. Have a good one.